Of this program is brought to you in part by BNN, Business News Network.
Well, it's that time of week when we try to take a bit of the edge off with a short tour of culinary delights. On this week's installment of Food Friday, we take a look at the rising popularity of craft beer. With small batch brewers giving the big guys a run for their money, we headed down to Toronto's hip distillery district to do a little taste testing at Street Brewery. It's one of a number of up-and-coming craft breweries across the country that are starting to find success with a new class of beer drinkers, a class of beer drinkers that is quite discerning. I'm here with Steve Abrams, the co-founder of Street Brewery. Thanks for inviting us down.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, what's been happening in the craft brewery industry? Have you been seeing sales ticking up?
We have, absolutely. We're having a huge, so we're 100% up from our previous year, which is very exciting.
So I'm assuming that means that people are turning away from the more traditional beers, the Molsons, the big beers, and moving to craft. So why do you think that's happening?
I think the new generation is certainly finding that they don't have to be just loyal to one specific brand, and that's very exciting for us. And we're part of a whole craft beer movement, and someone who drinks Mill Street will be a fan of any and many Ontario craft beers that are available.
So we got 3 beers lined up here. These are, I guess, 3 of your top beers. Explain to me what you got here.
Oh, this is our Tank House Ale. This is the hoppiest, most flavorful beer that we make. This is our Stock Ale, which is really what we like to call patio beer. It's really the most accessible beer that we make. It's a starter beer. And this is the organic beer. We are currently the only beer that makes certified organic beer in Ontario. So that's pretty exciting. We were the first ones to do it, and it's all certified organic.
How do you go about deciding what the market wants? That's got to be a tough call. How do you know that people want this particular beer when you're deciding which product you're going to produce?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the Tank House Ale really has been a style that is very popular in North America, and Ontarians are really just now discovering it. It's a very flavorful beer. There's brands in the U.S. like Sierra Nevada that have been around for 20-plus years, and this is really something that once you're used to the hops, you crave it, you love the flavorful beer. The Stock Ale is really, like I said, something that's more of a starter beer. It's something that someone who isn't familiar with craft beer, it's a gateway beer. I almost hate to use these terms, but it's really something that
you get them hooked on it, and then you...
Yeah, we don't use that word. Yeah. We don't like that one. But yeah, absolutely. It's something that gets them excited about Mill Street, and then they'll explore from there, our portfolio. And the organic beer is a light lager, and that is the most popular style of beer in the world.
But is it the case that you just decide, this is the beer we're going to make, and then you go out and try to get people introduced to it? Or do you just say, here's what the market wants, this is what we're going to create?
Well, certainly we threw a number of different beers out there. We did market research as well, but we found that this is what people were screaming for. Plus, we're fortunate enough to have this brew pub here, which is great. This is our lab, so we can experiment with different styles and see what takes off.
What's the sign of a good beer? I mean, if you've got a glass of wine, you want to swirl it around, you want to get the bouquet, you want to check the legs on that. What tells you what's
similar to wine,
beer?
absolutely. There's the nose. It depends what style of beer you're into. So, I mean, you're looking for different levels of bitterness. Some people don't like that, so there's definitely an ale, a traditional golden ale, which is not very hopped. Pilsners will have a nice hop to it, a European flavor, and this one is very, very hoppy. It's delicious, and it goes great with food pairings. We strongly recommend eating wonderful different types of food.
That's a new trend as well, the food pairing. So do you do a lot of research, or do you just automatically know what this will go with?
Well, a lot of it's intuitive. A beer like Tank House will go great with spicy foods, like a curry or a pad thai, something that really traditional pub fare.
If I'm, for instance, having a big steak dinner, I mean, typically if I'm drinking wine, I'd like a nice robust Zinfandel or something like that, or
Well, we typically suggest a beautiful lager like the organic lager. That goes great. We also make a Pilsner here, which really complements steaks and meals like that.
What is it about it that complements it?
Well, there's a level of bitterness, really, that you don't want it to overpower anything that you're eating. So sometimes with a hoppier beer, like the Tank House, you sort of equalize or neutralizing all the spiciness in a meal. So with this, you're allowing the aromas of the meat to savor that, and that's really why beers like that work well.
And if you're having a nice spicy Indian meal, I mean, there's no time better to have a beer than when you're having a good spicy Indian meal or a Thai meal. Like
IPAs, India Pale Ales, bitters, ESBs is what we call them, Tank House Ale. These are all examples of very great hoppy beers. The styles really complement very spicy meals.
And then what about for, say, a lighter dish like fish or chicken?
Stock ale is really a style of beer. Again, that's the traditional Canadian ale. It goes great with sort of very typical meals that you'd serve that aren't bland necessarily, but something that you wouldn't overpower. And that's really what you're trying to do, is not overpower your taste buds. That's really the same thing with the wine industry. You're just trying to train your taste buds and find things that work well together.
Is that a good part of the marketing when you're selling these beers?
Absolutely. The LCBO is a huge fan of it as well.
Really?
We do a lot of cooking demonstrations with beer. We cook with beer here as well at the pub.
Talk to me a little bit about commodity prices. We know they're high. They've come down, but they hammer just about every business. Does it affect you?
It absolutely affects us, and we're seeing a 5-fold increase in our malt prices. Hops have become scarce, and we haven't been able to lock into some of the contracts that we had previously. In the past, the price was fairly depressed for hops, so it wasn't planted as regularly, but there was a couple of factors that played into the hop market. So people are scrambling right now.
Why? What's so in demand about hops?
Well, especially with beers like Tank House, you'll find in North America especially, the hoppier beers, the craft beers in general, use a lot of hops. And those are the biggest ones. The larger brewers like Anheuser-Busch, now Interbrew, all those, some of their brands won't use as much of it. They also rely on other ingredients aside from just barley malt. We use exclusively barley malt. They'll use adjuncts. Corn, rice, all these other ingredients that we don't use. So they're able to sort of play the field a little more in terms of commodities. But we're using barley exclusively.
And then overall the big commodities like oil, that factors into fuel, transportation, that
absolutely.
kind of thing.
We're growing right now. So of course, we rely on third-party transporters for some of our out-of-province deliveries, and the costs are going up everywhere. So, and also just with our own in-town deliveries.
So what's your goal? You've obviously grown quite a bit. You've been around for how long?
5 years.
About 5 years. Yep. You said you've seen sales double in the last...
In the last 2 years, they've gone double each year.
Each year?
Each year.
So that's huge growth.
It sure is.
What's your goal? Is your goal to sort of hit a certain size and stay there, or is it to maybe become another Sleeman, which started out as craft brewery, go public?
We certainly want to maintain the ethic that we started with, which is making a variety of different beers, sticking to the recipes, try not to water anything down, and really giving people what they want, which is the whole real beer experience, the craft beer experience. So that's what we're all about, and as we grow, we want to maintain that.
You think you ever might go public?
Who knows? Don't know right now.
Someday. I see you've got an extra beer sitting out there, and I'm dying to know what that is. What is that?
This is one of our little oddities we call coffee porter.
Coffee porter?
Coffee porter uses real coarse ground coffee beans when we make it. It does have a wee bit of a caffeine content, 5.5% alcohol, and we like to promote it almost as an after-dinner beer, or a beer for breakfast. It goes great with steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs. So we've got the breakfast beer or dessert beer and all of these other ones.
Something for everyone. That's really what we're all about.
Listen, it's been great to talk to you. I'm dying to try one of these beers. Can I try the coffee beer?
You sure can.
Right. You grab another one and we'll have a little
try
taste
an organic
here.
beer. Cheers.
Great talking to you, and best of luck with the business.
Thank you.
That is a really unique beer. Actually, I can taste the coffee in there.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks.
That is Steve Abrams. He is the co-founder of Street Brewery. High crop prices have turned just about any